Hi guys, and welcome to our webinar. This is a webinar with IFAC, Cisco and Rocktel discussing digital transformation and the journey of infrastructure and cloud aggregation. So I'm joined today by Richard Hart, Head of IT and CIO of IFAC, and Gerry Keleghan, who's Senior Architect within Cisco Systems Dublin. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Cormac, CEO and founder of Rocktel. We're predominantly based here in Dublin. We've offices in the UK. We've connectivity in, I think, 20 countries, 55 cities worldwide. And we specialize in, servicing managed services around aggregated connectivity solutions utilizing Cisco's technologies. So Richard, if you'd like to take a moment just to introduce yourself there and give people a bit of your own background.
Yes, I'm Richard Hart. I'm the Head of IT and Development at IFAC. IFAC are a specialist farm accountant and financial services provider. By number, we're the biggest in Ireland. By number of clients, we're the biggest in Ireland, and overall by turnover, I think we're the eighth biggest at the moment.
Excellent. And Gerry, if you want to give a few words there, obviously we're well familiar with Cisco, but perhaps a little bit of insights into your role within Cisco Dublin and UK.
Sure, Cormac. My name is Gerry Keleghan. I'm a solutions architect, a technical solutions architect. My field of expertise is collaboration. I've been covering collaboration within Cisco for the last long time. I do cover accounts in Ireland. Cisco treats Ireland north and south. So I've got accounts in the north as well as the south, and I do cover accounts as well in the UK. So that's a collaboration for us is voice, video, integrated messaging, WebEx, which is what we're using here. So that's pretty much me, Cormac.
Great. Listen, thanks, guys. And I suppose without further ado, this is an opportunity for us as a service provider, client, and vendor to really have an open conversation about the challenges and opportunities faced by businesses in Ireland predominantly, and how we've addressed some of those challenges and opportunities that come from that. Towards the end of the webinar, Gerry will give us a bit of insights into the vision within Cisco and where they're going next with some very exciting new acquisitions and some great technologies that are now being brought to bear that we're delighted to be utilizing. And so without further ado, Richard, I'd just like to take us back to, the challenges, maybe 2017, maybe even 2016, what the challenges were as you were managing, dispersed network, multiple carriers, cross-country, 26 counties of Ireland. What were the key pain points that you were suffering at that time in the business, and what were you looking to achieve?
So we were a collection of 28 separate offices in 2017. We had local access in each office. So every office had their own broadband provider, own telecoms provider, own server. And the problem we had was there was no oversight on everything. So if something went down, it was a case of looking it up, who provided the service for this customer. And if a server went down, that meant the office was down for, well, as long as it took for us to get a new server ordered, taken down to the site, set up, data copied across if we could recover a disk. And that was where the real problem was. We couldn't guarantee uptime for clients, for the offices. So we'd get to a point where, like now, we're in the middle of a tax deadline, and if a server went down, we couldn't meet those deadlines, and the possible consequences from revenue.
Yeah, and I suppose that would bring it to what are the big industry challenges that you guys are facing today?
Yeah, well, security would be one as well. So, how do you make sure that you've got security blanket, I suppose, over the whole of the business? How do you make sure that you've got, as much uptime as possible? And as an office grows, how do you share the work around if you're all siloed? If you've got 28 offices operating separate silos, how do you move work from one office to another?
Yeah, and obviously this year, being a pandemic year, has been massively challenging for all industries. And I would imagine, 28 office locations became quieter than they were in 2019. And some adjustments had to be made there also.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, you've gone from 28 separate offices to 300 separate offices as everyone's gone to work from home. But, by bringing in some of the changes that were made 3 years ago, or we started to make 3 years ago, it made it seamless almost. I know that some other accountants in Ireland have struggled, capacity issues, or just didn't think about working from home and basically had to shut their office for 6, 7 weeks. Hence why revenue have extended the deadline this year. Whereas we've pretty much been able to work non-stop. People have just seamlessly worked from home, picked up a laptop, gone home, plugged it in, and straight away they're connected to the cloud and they're working away.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a fantastic opportunity in Ireland at the moment. The National Broadband Plan, which we're all excited to see it rolling out now. I saw a release only yesterday that they're targeting like 650 schools or thereabouts, and obviously we've experienced as an aggregator and consumer that we were able to get the benefit of some of those very, very hard to reach rural parts of Ireland and give them connectivity. And I think we had an example of that in one of the offices there not so long ago. So I suppose it's an evolution all the time where the connectivity changes, the infrastructure improves, hopefully. And then one of the key challenges I feel for businesses, all of it is available to maybe 3 nines, but you really want 5 nines of availability or even 100% ideally. So, I mean, how can that technology, help you to pivot or maximize your business team outcomes that were not available to you before the likes of a rock solid solution was available?
Well, I guess when all the offices were siloed, the problem in convincing the partners to move towards a centralized cloud solution was availability. What happens if the internet goes down? Which everyone in Ireland who has internet will tell you, broadband goes down. So how do we get around that? So that's when I started looking for solutions and talk to yourself and, fail over onto 4G, 3G, whichever we've got there. Or if we can get 2 separate providers, say in our Carlo office, we have Care coming in on one line and we have Virgin coming on another line. 2 completely separate services. So if one goes down, it straight away seamlessly switches to another. I mean, we've plenty of examples where it has gone down in different offices. It's seamlessly switched to 4G, or to a separate provider, and the offices don't notice. Now that's not always a good thing because there's no kudos then for providing great service. But the fact that they haven't noticed is, it's fantastic, and it removes the pain point as well.
I think so. I mean, we're hoping that you kind of have no more than 15 seconds on a failover type scenario. Obviously, that can fluctuate, but the other good news is in some of the Cisco technologies that are available, and maybe Gerry can elaborate later on, but 5G is now being baked into some of the chipsets, I believe, as they will come down the track, and obviously that rollout's happening, which is going to be transformational really for business. It's all about access. It's all about being available. And I mean, from our perspective as a service provider, we're delighted to see what is the most cost-effective way to have that connectivity. As you alluded to, there's a blend of service providers there, and equally you have the likes of your DIA connecting into some of the larger operations where you'd have a direct fiber into the building. And I suppose the other opportunity then one would have is the Wi-Fi and the aggregation of Wi-Fi and making it uniform. So one office visit to another, you're not logging into different access points in different scenarios. Have you guys had that experience?
Yeah, so we've financial services who may work, in 4 or 5 different offices around the country, each person. So once they've logged onto the Wi-Fi in one office, it's seamless. They go to the next office, it's the same Wi-Fi password that automatically logs on. It's the same service. It's all going through the same firewall, so security is provided for them as well. And the move as well during COVID, where we were mainly using probably desktops at that point, and we suddenly had to do a huge rollout of over 200 laptops, is that people can now come in and out of the office. They can log in and they can use the wired network using DHCP, or they can just stay on Wi-Fi. It really makes no matter to me from a security point of view. They're going through exactly the same, Cisco umbrella service. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and just to touch on that, I always recall the at the early days of Umbrella, one of the big kind of interesting kind of heart stops, if you like, for businesses. Oh my God, the amount of access and connectivity and time that's possibly not related to the company or the business objectives is easy to control and manage. After the initial kind of onboarding or realization of those applications being or websites that aren't necessarily useful for the business. Has that added value to you at all?
Sorry, can you just say that again? I was trying to get rid of a call there coming in and I had not muted my phone.
No worries, no worries. This is what we call live webinars, and we're enjoying it. I'm lucky that I'm up high and there's no dogs barking outside, but I was just suggesting that when predating Umbrella, obviously it's a great defense for at the edge of the network for home users, etc., preventing hundreds and thousands of potential attacks every day. And I think a customer is often taken aback by the realization of what that looks like on their organization once we start running reports. Can you maybe take us through that experience, Richard? And was there an opportunity for the business to grow productivity in relation to, let's say, the not so useful parts of the internet that customers and I suppose users may use? And was that something that you guys recognized?
Yeah, I mean, like just even the web filtering alone just saves us a lot of time and a lot of lost productivity. The amount of day one people started bringing up, I can't get onto my lottery site, I can't check me clothes order and that kind of thing. And it's not a case that you want to stop people from using the internet. It's more like it's fine. We can allow certain sites in there, but generally you just want to make sure that it's controlled and it's for work reasons they're using it. If everyone has mobile phones these days, if they need to check a website that's personal, they can use a mobile phone. I want to make sure as head of IT that they're only going on sites that are legitimate. I mean, it's another layer of security. Long gone are the days where you just have antivirus on your PC and think that's it. I'm doing everything that I can do. With layers upon layers now, security is probably the biggest headache for any IT and any organisation, is making sure that you're secure and you don't have a data breach. And it's an impossible task.
Yeah, it is. And I have to say, one of the comfort blankets, if you want, that's out there, and I suppose the unique to Cisco is their Talos branch, which is basically a manned operation 24/7 that's filtering attacks all over the planet, literally around the world, and probably out of this world in no time if Elon Musk has anything to do with it. But it gets a lot of that extra intelligence brought straight to the user, straight out of the gate. And I think that's a key differentiator that people sometimes don't realize is the power of that technology, and also being able to manage the ongoing potential threat that might be there or is absolutely there. So from that perspective, you've obviously been utilizing that. And I mean, from our own perspective, what do you feel over the last 3-4 years within the organization, that transformation has been your biggest accomplishment yourself as an individual?
I think probably moving the organisation from being siloed offices into one cloud environment for everybody. It's a challenge for everybody, for every organisation, is how you give access to your systems and how you keep them secure. And you want people to be able to make the organisation more agile as well. If you've got siloed servers, you're stuck in an operating model that you can't easily and flexibly change. So COVID would have absolutely, I won't say destroyed us, but it would have caused a lot of problems. If we couldn't access our data, if we couldn't carry on working, operationally we'd have been struggling. So the fact that we were able to put that strategy in place, have a disaster recovery plan that said, if an office goes down, everything will be in the cloud ready to go. Now, as it happened, we transitioned to the cloud, and it wasn't a disaster recovery plan anymore. This is full-time operation. Everybody's going to be using the cloud. And you did get a few complaints at first. You suddenly got 300 users using a database as opposed to 10 or 12. Yeah. So you get those complaints that things are running a little bit slower. And they are. The software that we use, which is all proprietary, wasn't designed to be used in the cloud. It was designed to be used on an individual server. So the cloud gives us that flexibility to be able to, I wouldn't say modernize the software, but allow it to be used, anywhere in the world if we wanted it to be. We couldn't have done that any other way. And if we wouldn't have had that rock solid solution, we wouldn't have been able to get the managers or the partners buy-in to be able to do that either.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we use the term journey because, as you rightly pointed out, this is a large, a number of variables to take on. You've mentioned cloud, you've got other vendors in there, you've got aggregation of different softwares, you've got that are maybe, as you say, not purpose built for cloud, maybe spinning up servers in the cloud. And I think all of that's improving as things come along, and some products are native to the internet, which is great, and some of that in itself can have its opportunity, but equally its drawback and may not be suitable for the enterprise. So I think from the point of view of the journey, the next big opportunity, which I know we've started to unlock, is the connectivity, the collaboration, the external access with your customer, your people being able to get in touch with the right people at the right time when they need to.
Yeah, so without that solution, COVID would have hit us badly. All the complaints that we had about anything running slightly slower than it was in the past have suddenly disappeared. They've realised that the reason we went to the cloud was for this flexibility and to give us that disaster recovery. The only issue that we probably have had is how people contact us. And we've gone from face-to-face meetings, which would be, our demographic of our clients is, probably older male farmers who have no interest in technology. I won't say all of them, but just to generalize.
Yeah.
So, when you suddenly go into a Teams or a Zoom kind of environment, it doesn't always suit them. Still want to talk to you on the phone, but suddenly you've nobody in the office anymore. So how do they get in touch with you? And that's why we're doing the rollout of the soft phones. If I ring out to a farmer, it comes up with the number from the office. So if they ring back, the administrator can still take the call and take a message. If they're in one office, I can transfer it to anybody anywhere in the world. As well, anybody on my network in the world. And it's that kind of thing. So that, to a client, we're still IFAC, we're still in the offices, but in the background, we can be anywhere we want. I'd love to be on the beach, but.
Well, I tell you, I when those planes are flying, I'll be first in the queue for a beach. I tell you, that's for free. But yeah, so I mean, Gerry, just to bring you in on this, obviously we've touched on a number of different technologies there. Obviously, Cisco is powering the back end of a lot of what we're delivering. Maybe share a little bit about what the next vision for Cisco is. I know there's been some very, very interesting highlights in the last week. If you wanted to give us some insights on that.
Sure. Before I do, I'd just like to come back to some of the things that Richard said about security, which when Richard was going through your requirements around security, it resonated so well with our security strategy. First of all, the direction we're taking around security. Cisco historically has been regarded as a firewall IPS vendor. We have security on our routers and switches, but as we all know, with the advent of cloud, that security strategy has essentially turned the security story on its head. We've had to now look at security all the way from the application, the device itself, all the way up to the cloud application, and indeed the interconnect between various cloud applications. Have you got policies in place to manage your Dropbox install, your Salesforce install, talking to your installation in the cloud? So our security portfolio now is very, very broad. And you mentioned Talos, Cormac. Talos is a very powerful tool to enable the analysis of flows, security penetration points throughout the network. 3 to 4% of internet traffic is analyzed by Talos. So we get a view of threats as they occur in real time, and then we can react in real time. So anyway, the security story we have is really, really fascinating at the moment, really interesting. But the real question you asked me is around collaboration and some of the pain points that you mentioned, Richard, the problem you face with the generational plus the technology at use today to enable people to connect with the business. That's all changed too, and the cloud has driven those changes. For us, it's WebEx. We've invested heavily in our WebEx cloud. We are rolling out services across WebEx to help you enable some of those features that you mentioned.
I mean, just on that, like, I don't think there's ever going to be an opportunity again to have such an impact or to be able to roll out change in such a way that we've been able to do with COVID. You know, years and years of lag on video conferencing and getting people to engage and not happening. And then suddenly you can't meet people face to face anymore. Everybody's doing video conferencing.
Totally agree, Richard. It's a sad thing to say that. Unfortunately, COVID has actually been good for our business in certain respects. COVID has not been good generally, but for our business, it has been good. It's been good from a few points. The first one is from a competitive standpoint, Richard. COVID has introduced us to the world where Zoom is almost a verb now. We have Microsoft Teams everywhere, and it has encouraged us to improve our products to meet that competition. WebEx has now it has scaled 300% since March. The amount of servers that we've added to the platform have rapidly scaled. We've opened additional data centers all over the world. We've quickly had to adapt to a different model for applying new features to the product because of the demand, which has been great. It's been difficult, but hey, um, nothing in this world is there has to be a reward, and it has been good. And WebEx has come on in leaps and bounds. And you just saw the recent WebEx One conference we held, where a lot of new features. We already had a raft of features that we introduced. Now we're bringing on the next wave of features to the WebEx cloud, which are really, really powerful. And one of the things, Richard, that you mentioned was around your contact center. How do customers connect with you effectively? From external customers connect with you, and that is a major focus of R&D for us. We're making several key acquisitions around this, and particularly we're going to leverage the cloud to help with this. We're using a lot of AI now. Google Analytics can be buried into our platform, Microsoft and IBM platforms. We're leveraging IBM capabilities from IBM. So the contact center story is really powerful, and it's cloud centric for us at the moment. Everything that we do today is cloud driven, has to be cloud driven.
And I'd even add to that security driven. I know we've mentioned it, but it is the one key point, that touch point from the network. And while we're all talking about the collaboration and, you know, different dispersed workforces, and Richard touched on the fact that you had 28 offices, now all of a sudden you've got 300 offices in effect. That's an incredible change in a job description, you know, within a 24-hour period or however long we were given before lockdown. But equally, the office is still going to be important. I think they'll definitely be changed, and there's definitely going to be use changes. But the core network, and I'm a network guy, I come back to the network all the time because I think that's where a lot of the items can be improved on, etc. So while the cloud is obviously critical, there's still some enterprises that will have and build their own applications in their own data centers or in private data centers like our own, where we would facilitate for customers. And I think that side of the business is also really accelerating, whereby vendor clouds are important. You've got the aggregation, as you say, with data centers spinning up all over the world. But equally, you have the opportunity where there's a rethink about how the office as it was in 2019 will now look in 2021. And I'm sure Gerry in Cisco as a corporation would have some interesting insights on that.
So the next wave for us, we've been through. We haven't been through COVID, but we've done a lot of R&D around COVID and making our product, which is WebEx, really, really powerful in terms of home workers. But the next wave for us is the return to the office wave. We envisage a scenario where, you know, people have gotten used to work from home now. So we think we're probably going to face a hybrid model where employers have seen the benefit of allowing people to have the flexibility to work from home. A lot of businesses have actually flourished in this environment, but there will still be a requirement to return to the office for social, for business reasons, for customer interaction. And we envisage we've got to have a hybrid model to allow people who are working from home to be able to effectively collaborate and communicate with people who are in the office, which needs a collaborative refit in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. The classic meeting room that you used to have pre-COVID with a dry whiteboard, probably an overhead projector, is no longer going to be effective for the remote user who wants to participate and collaborate with that meeting experience. So we brought a range of endpoints now to help upgrade the meeting room arena to help for the return to office. And even last week, we announced several key products, new endpoints, hub docking stations, where somebody can go in, connect to a docking station, and everything becomes their environment. The environment that they were used to at home is now replicated in the office. Intelligent whiteboards, which means people don't have to touch them. They can talk to them. They can give voice commands, which is a health and safety benefit. Hand gestures. Put your hand up to mute a call. Put your hand up with a gesture to unmute. They're coming into the arena as well. So the interaction with all our endpoints is becoming really slick and very, very user friendly. If you mentioned, well, sorry.
So I completely agree with Gerry. Like, I think if you're not planning on people working from home long term, you're going to be left behind and you're going to face staff turnover. Because if you won't let them work from home, somebody else will now. So everyone's got to be planning and going, how can I replicate that office environment at home?
Yeah.
Well, it's
Totally
interesting
agree
to say
with
that. I mean, from our perspective, one thing we learned from working, and I mean, a bit like Gerry, we're in the industry. I've been working from home, for many years, on and off, etc. And it was often kind of a guilty pleasure to work from home and beat that commute. And that now, obviously, in the last number of months, we've obviously had to make your home office as functional as the office in the city. And from that perspective, we what I noticed was, well, hang on, how come my Wi-Fi has got a dark point in the house? Why is there, poor signal in the background there somewhere? And we realized from collaborating with many of our customers, that was actually something that was a bit of a pain point where people's offices are in the loft. We're talking 3 stories up, or they might have the cabin in the garden, maybe, 50 meters from the house or 50 feet, whatever it might be. And all of these things needed to be addressed. So we've actually brought out our product, which you've mentioned, Rock Solid, but we've now brought out Rock Solid Home. And Rock Solid Home is specifically designed to give high availability connectivity to the home office. But the big feature is Wi-Fi connectivity to making sure it reaches and touches the entire building that you may be in. And then equally, you're looking at security wrap on that, utilizing the likes of Umbrella. So the CIO having to wrap around the security of those home offices can then go, well, that's okay. It's under Rock Solid Home. It's managed. It's taken care of. And in some cases, businesses are going, that's fine. Sign us up. We'll take, our top 20 partners of the business will take Rock Solid Home. And obviously, as executives come on stream, it's something we're seeing that we expect they'll be asking more and more for us to take care of. But I think it's that hybrid that's going to be important, whereby the office, it will still be important for the human collaboration, which I know I miss, and I'm sure some of us miss. But once that comes back in, I still think the world has changed, and therefore you are going to have to be flexible for the business and allow them to work from home. And there's some fantastic opportunities as an employer. As you probably know, some of our engineers that you would deal with on a regular basis, Richard, are not based in Ireland anymore. They're based in different countries. And that's something that we wouldn't have considered before COVID. And yet we realize it doesn't matter because we're not meeting them in the office anyway. So it's truly is a situation where the world is now officially flat in the sense that everything's accessible.
But
on that Rock Solid Home as well, like we've rolled it out to some of the executives because we can't afford for them to turn around to them and say, if your internet's not working, you've got to go into the office.
Yes.
They might be an hour away, and that's 2 hours of work that you've lost then for them to go in and back out again. So for them, they need that Rock Solid Home solution because if their internet goes down, it's onto 4G. 4G is not down, it's onto could be onto another 4G signal. Vodafone 3, and then you get the best of both worlds.
We do have as many as 4 carriers coming into some homes where they're high velocity traders, they're financial services companies. They are absolutely, I don't want 100%, I want 110%. And you know, I suppose as Gerry will know, high availability depends on where you want to stop. You can continue adding single points of failure or reducing single points of failure, but we've managed to distill it down to a very accessible, I would say almost consumable product, where it's available now at very modest numbers. It starts at €99, which is not a lot extra compared to the market for good connectivity. And with the service wrap and security wrap on top of that, not to mention it's on the NMC, so our customers can get that on their mobile phone. They can see themselves if they're having an issue. If they're going tapping the keyboard, they just go online and go, actually, it's not my internet. I can see my internet and how it's performing from my mobile. So maybe it's the application I'm using or something else. But it has been an exciting and true kind of revolution that Rocktel as a company, we've really enjoyed. I hate to say it, but we have enjoyed 2020 in many areas. It's been challenging, and we've spun up big opportunities and great outcomes. But at the same time, I think the entire technology industry anyway, and financial services in particular, have been a very good adopter of this next generation of technologies. I think we're in good shape for 2021 for this hybrid approach we were speaking about. So I mean, from the perspective of Cisco, Gerry, you mentioned all of that, new technologies. Which would you say is the most exciting next step for Cisco in 2021? What are you looking forward to the most?
I'd say AI and customer care.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of, we're in the process of completing a lot of acquisitions. One of them that's really interesting is iMobile, which is a way of blending multi-stream or multi-connectivity options into the contact center, and keeping track of those contact centers. Customers can now contact a business on multiple mediums, stuff on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, LinkedIn. So it's able to manage all those streams that are coming in, particularly for mobile devices, and presenting them in a logical fashion to an agent and being able to monitor that flow throughout the business. Where is the business impact from these multiple connectivity options? So that's going to be fascinating. The acquisition is going to be really interesting to see how it embeds into the product. We have a very strong cloud contact center offering, so it'll be interesting to see how that adds value to the product as we roll forward. And once again, AI, I keep coming back to AI. Like we have a lot of Cisco's AI and collaboration is actually developed on the island in Galway. The team is here. The intelligence is in Ireland. We have a lot of very clever, powerful people here developing for our products. And one of the key areas is artificial intelligence. We've buried it into our endpoints.
As you know, Gerry, Rocktel also gets involved in some of the R&D. We've had those universities spin out opportunities. We're actually embarking on another one with a university with GPT-3 as a core language and AI enabler. It's a fascinating space, so we can certainly talk about that again. But I think, you know, for the future, Richard, I mean, what's exciting you most about 2021? What's your job looking like in the next 12 months from now?
I think 2021, 2022 are all going to be about data analytics, artificial intelligence, you know, identifying trends in data and, you know, using data to, I suppose, an artificial intelligence to create more efficient processes.
You know what, Richard, you're dead right. And I think that it's scary, to be honest, the volume of how that analytics is going to play on decision making and how that's going to impact developments of businesses as they go along. But overall, guys, I have to say, I mean, from my perspective, I really enjoyed today's session. I thought it really touched on a lot of pain points that businesses. Richard, you guys are in a perfect position to relate to not just, you know, the city centres of Cork and Limerick and Galway and Dublin, but right through the country of Ireland. And the digital divide is something you've experienced firsthand, and we've all tried to scale that wall together. So I appreciate your time today on sharing that journey, and hopefully we'll have a very good 2021. And Gerry, equally, I really appreciate your insights. You always have you're on the pulse as always, and seeing what's coming down the track. And I'm certainly interested to hear more down the road about these new experience rooms that we're talking about for new age office, if that's what's going to be coined as, or I'm sure there's a good marketing term for it, but for sure.
Just as long as we don't call it the new, just as long as we don't call it the new normal.
No, I did my
No.
best to avoid that. I did my best to avoid that term. I did hear somewhere that they're trying to take the word normal out of the dictionary.
Yeah.
I said, what is normal? But anyway, listen, guys, I really appreciate your time today. I think that was a very good session. What I will say to the viewers is thanks for joining in. Thanks for coming along. We hope to do other sessions down the road. And if you are interested in Rocktel services, hashtag Rock Solid Home is a product that we'd be delighted to give you 1 month free and free installation in the country of Ireland if you use that hashtag between now and the end of February 2021. So without further ado, I'll say thank you for joining us, and thank you very much.
Thank you.